teaching your significant other. You guys, tell me if this sounds familiar. I teach something to my wife, disaster. My brother or anybody else in the world teaches something to my wife, no problem. He don't teach something to his wife, disaster. I share some ideas with Victoria, no problem. Why is it that it's so unbelievably, ridiculously difficult to teach something you love to someone you love?
And it's one of the most common questions we get from students, from people who train all over the world, is they come to me or Henner, they say, how do I get my wife on the mat?
That's what's up.
How do I do this? How do I get her to train? And the answer is it starts with you.
Yeah.
For the context of this video, we're going to be referencing a husband teaching a wife because that was our experience. But for you, in watching this video and applying what we're going to be talking about, you could apply this if it's a father teaching a child, or a wife teaching a husband if the wife trained jiu-jitsu first and wants to get her husband in to train.
And it doesn't matter if you're teaching your significant other in the garage, or if you train at an academy and you want to introduce your significant other at the academy, the techniques and the strategies we're going to teach you in this video are going to help you keep them on the mat for the first 6 months, the critical initial 6 months. Success secret number 1, start functional.
The number one question she's going to ask herself after her first training session is, why am I doing this? It has to be applicable to her life. And as a woman, you want to make sure that everything that you're involved in, especially when you have limited time to spend doing all of your activities, that whatever you're doing is applicable to your everyday life.
Yeah, so what someone learns today, they have to envision potentially using it tomorrow. And what's crazy is that this reality and this necessity is what caused us to create so many demographic specific programs. Because at the end, a black belt in jiu-jitsu is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. What we did is we took the beginnings of jiu-jitsu, Gracie Combatives, Gracie Bully Proof, Women Empowered, Gracie Survival Tactics for Cops, because we wanted to speak directly to these beginners with techniques that would be immediately and entirely applicable in threat scenarios that they totally related to. So that when they're learning something, they're saying, wow, this is amazing. I learned this today, I could use it tomorrow. And what that basically means is for someone to introduce to jiu-jitsu in the most engaging way possible, the techniques they're learning have to be functional. So when you're at home watching your Gracie breakdowns, learning a crazy new Darce choke setup, don't grab your wife, throw her on the bed and say, hey, let me try this new Darce choke setup on you.
That should not be her introduction
Listen,
to jiu-jitsu.
because that has no immediate functionality to her. And if it's not functional, it's not fun. Success secret number 2, expect nothing, praise everything.
When someone is starting jiu-jitsu for the first time, they're not already thinking about the long-term journey, about how they're gonna, their path to black belt at some point. All they're really thinking about is, am I gonna come back and do this again tomorrow?
Right.
Did I enjoy myself today? And do I feel proficient? And do I have potential in this skill that I just learned? And that's really what's gonna keep them coming back for more.
And their determination that they have potential and that they can be proficient in this is based more on the feedback provided by you than on any other factor.
So we're relying on you. Now, natural instincts, I think of someone who, the husband who cares about his wife or the significant other, and they're training them in something, their natural instincts are gonna wanna be a little bit overbearing and correcting every single thing that you can to make sure that they're perfect at what they're doing. And conversely, the natural instincts of the person being trained, who's being introduced to this art that I know is so important to my husband, is they're gonna naturally feel vulnerable, and they're naturally gonna not wanna disappoint their husband.
Yeah, that's their biggest concern. So
the combination of those two is a disaster.
That's
and that's why we're here.
This is the core reason for this video, is that fundamental dynamic. So when someone does a technique, when a significant other does a technique, let's say she does it 60% correctly, 40% incorrectly. You as the teacher, trainer, husband, partner, wife, whatever, father, have a decision to make. You can focus on the 60 they did right, or you can focus on the 40 they did wrong. And if what Eve's saying about instincts is true, the natural inclination is to focus on the 40% they're doing wrong with the mindset that you want them to reach 100 because you care about them so much. But when you focus on the 40, they're gonna instantly start to associate the practice of jiu-jitsu with disappointing their significant other. And that's when you get a disaster.
So many of you might be asking, well then when will they get the 40? Because eventually you will need to learn the rest and get that technique to 100%.
And this is where I say, trust the system. Over time, Okay, as they continue going to class, as they continue learning the techniques, as they continue practicing day after day after day, they're gonna keep shaving off the excess errors. They're gonna keep getting better little by little. But in the beginning, it's so critical that they do a technique, you just celebrate the 60 so that when they leave that class, all they say to themselves is, wow, I have potential. I'm gonna come back tomorrow. And then if they keep coming back tomorrow,
get that 40.
6 months of tomorrows means you finally get someone who is much more, you know what's a good analogy? Is the fire in the woods, Bear Grylls style. You got your little thing and you're just running it and you're making your little ember trying to create that little thing. How much work to start a fire? So much work to start and to nurture it. Yo, if that fire makes a mistake on a technique, don't talk about it. Don't worry about it. Just keep going on the 60 and keep going on the praise and keep hyping them and keep getting them excited about their potential in jiu-jitsu. And then eventually, after 4, 5, 6 months, what happens? That little ember drops, hits the little fine little straw that you had accumulated in the jungle shavings, and then that little straw turns into some dry leaves, and then you have a little flame, then you throw some wood, and now you have a roaring blaze, you guys. She will one day become a roaring blaze. And by that, all I'm saying is that the intrinsic motivation now for their own training, they're sparring, they're training, they're learning, they're discovering, they're exploring, they're on YouTube with you late at night, you know, you're on your phone, she's on her phone, and you're just YouTube racy breakdowns all the way.
You can be trying that new dark stroke on her.
Yeah, she's like, yo, let me try this new footlock on you, honey, come here. It's all in, you guys. She's all in at that point.
Now,
but the fire has to get to that point, and in the beginning, expect nothing, praise everything, but once she's that roaring blaze and she's sparring and she's all in, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah, if you let her win sometimes.
Yes. Let her win a few times, you guys, especially if you want to keep things stable in the household. Number 3, grow at their pace. So major, you guys. And we were thinking about this, like how to explain this concept of the pacing of the concept, and hey, no better pace than a marathon race. So let's imagine that I'm a long-time marathon runner. I've done 15 marathons. For me, it's like shaving off seconds and minutes, and that's the competition for me. For her, she's never done a marathon. She's training for her first marathon with a group of running friends, and she's about to get down at the end of the month in her first marathon. For her, victory is simply getting into and completing the marathon, her first one, which is a reasonable victory for anyone who has ever ran a marathon for the first time. But me, on the other hand, as an experienced marathon runner, imagine if Eve is on her first marathon and I'm there on the sidelines next to her.
Checking my time.
The whole time, like, yo, we gotta hurry up. Eve, let's go. You gotta shave more seconds. Go. You guys, if this is the case, the last person in the entire world that Eve wants to see by her side is me.
That's right. So now how this translates to training is that your definition of a successful training session might be, you know, an hour of techniques, another hour of sparring, whatever that might look like for you. Whereas for her, especially in the beginning, it's not going to be, you know, this long drawn out either sparring session or whatever it is. It might just be learn 3 different techniques, drill them a few times, and she might feel like, okay, that was enough for today.
100%.
And you have to be okay with that.
Yeah,
along those same lines, as far as pacing, is that jiu-jitsu takes a certain level of resiliency and it develops toughness, right? So in the beginning, you're like getting choked and poked and stretched, and you're like, and I'm just gonna warn you of this. In the beginning, you will experience more complaining than you will with other training partners. And that is because, first of all, it takes a little bit. Again, in terms of the pace, it's gonna take a while for her to get that kind of, you know, resiliency and toughness with these situations if this isn't her normal types of activity. But all that aside, even for me, I know I complain with Henner more than I do with any other training partner. Partly because I really believe he hurts me more. He's got really sharp bones and shins and everything. So I'm always like, ow, ugh. And I know that part of me is looking at me like, seriously? You're like...
Yeah, and in my mind, I'm like, yo, why is she whining more than the average student right now as we're just doing these basic techniques?
Yeah, and all I really want him to say is like, oh, your finger, are you okay? And I'll be like, yeah, I'm okay. All right, let's keep going. You know? But it's just, I feel, it's true. You feel, because you trust this person so much and love this person so much, you feel like you can whine a little bit. You can complain a little bit. So don't...
Yes.
Try not to let that frustrate you too much, and
yes,
just let it kind of happen. Let it kind of happen. It'll happen in the beginning. Eventually, you know. Again,
yeah, because the worst thing you can do, I found out the hard way, is that when your shin rubs into her shin and she like rolls over hysterically, the worst thing you can do is say, "Oh, come on, toughen up. Let's just do it." Ooh, because now that little shin connection became basically a disappointment from her to me. She disappointed her loved one, and how eager is she going to be to come train the next day? Versus saying, oh honey, I'm sorry, my shin, I accidentally put it on your shin, and then let her have her moment, and then get back in, let's go. If you're okay, we want to keep going, and really making it her thing. And now there is no judgment on that little whiny / situation. You guys, this is all in the very beginning. The bottom line is, growing at their pace means letting there be different definitions of victory at different phases of the journey, and understanding that one day, long time ago, you sucked at jiu-jitsu. I was like, 8 or 6 years old, but I remember sucking and coming in here getting tapped out and going home and crying about it.
I explained that to Hannah the other day.
I forgot so long ago it was, but the reality is I sucked one day too. And the point is just to empathize with the difficulties and the challenge of that initial journey, and know that victory for her at this early phase is totally different than victory for you now to get a good training session in. And don't try to pull her into your victory, because you will lose her as quickly as you got her.
That's right.
There you go, you guys. Now what's crazy is that these 3 concepts start functional, because there is no fun if it's not functional in the very beginning. Expect nothing, praise everything. Focus on the 60, ignore the 40 in the beginning, and over time they'll come. And then growing at their own pace. For her, just being in the marathon is a victory. Don't rob her of that by shouting out her time every 10 steps from the sidelines. We talk about them in the context of jiu-jitsu and teaching, a husband teaching a wife, or a father teaching a child. It could be whatever it might be. But know this, these training of your significant other success secrets apply to any skill that you love, that you are trying to share with someone that you love. So hone your skills of sharing with significant others, hone them on the mat, and then apply them everywhere.
And with everyone.
Yes. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you have a significant other. Just based on statistics, it's probably a husband watching this video who would like to introduce his wife into the possible training of jiu-jitsu. And some of you are skeptical because the academies you train at are freaking madhouses. So they're like, I don't know what to do, because if I take her there, I'm not the owner of the school, so if I take her there, it's going to be a disaster.
And she may end up with that one training partner that
who does not know these rules.
You don't want her rolling with, and then, and then she has a bad experience and she never comes back.
And it's ruined forever. Our suggestion is that if you don't feel like your academy is 100% welcoming to women in this particular example, don't take her. Okay, get her on Gracie University, Women Empowered program, start functional, 1 lesson per day, so gradual, and just be happy to be spending that time together and have that bonding experience. And then once she builds the confidence, once Bear Grylls gets that ember to drop and the freaking roaring blaze is going down, then you bring her to the dojo. It may take months, may take years, whatever it is. When she's ready, you bring her in, and at that point, it's so much fire that if you throw something on the fire, it doesn't put it out. It actually makes it bigger.
Yeah. And the one thing I will say is that all of this is so worth it. It's so worth figuring this out, because to have this, bonding experience, to have this opportunity for growth with somebody that you love so much, and to be able to share something you love so much with somebody you love so much is just such a wonderful experience.
It's totally worth it. We train together every single week. We get to spar crazy. My shins are still sharp. She still whines from time to time. But guess what? I'd rather be there with her whining than anywhere else in the world. Much respect. Thanks for joining us. Share it with someone you love.